of course, we called Tim Wilkerson out to try and get retribution for him whooping our ass the year before at the U.S. Nationals on Monday. We got wilked, basically. And I love Wilkerson. He's a great guy, big fan of his, but that was something we wanted to get back at. And then, of course, we went low ET first round, and I thought nobody better to call out than the GOAT, John Forrest.
Winner chicken dinner. Ronald C. Capps joining us here in the Freak Nation. And Ron, I'm having a tough time keeping up with not only your Wallies that you've won in the history of Ronald C. Capps, but this whole call out thing in Indianapolis. I'm still trying to wrap my arms around this. You guys are calling out drivers to whoop their ass and so forth. Can you explain to the Freak Nation what the call out was for the big go?
Well, I think, I'm sure NHRA wanted to stir things up, and obviously we know Street Outlaws has been such a popular show on TV that the whole call out thing. I think when they wanted to bring back these all-star races, which were great when I came into Funny Car back in the day, the Big Bud Shootout was such a big event to be a part of. I think they wanted to kind of stir it up and just change things. I think the call out became an idea, not realizing how cool it was going to end up being. And honestly, they did. Dragsters, their race started in Gainesville, and they go Gainesville to Gainesville in points, and then they run their all-star race there. Funny Cars traditionally, which is great, they had it in Indianapolis, which is where it's always been. And I've got to say, the dragster guys were a little boring when they did their call out. We were all kind of shocked, but Funny Car did not disappoint. And I was part of it, but man, when Robert Hite called out Tasca as first pick, it sent us all back to the drawing board. And I was second pick, so I had to scramble, and it definitely made things a little more interesting, I think.
Ron Capps, 71 Wallies. Is that what you said, Ron?
Yeah, nuts, huh?
Yeah.
Crazy.
If you're watching us on...
Never thought I'd have one, let alone 71.
If you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook Live, you'll see the Wallies behind Ron Capps, NHRA Funny Car champion, multi-time winner, joining us here in the Freak Nation. Now, you would call out these other Funny Car drivers depending on where you were seated in the standings or in qualifying.
Well, what they did is this all-star race was based off of your qualifying points only throughout the year. So from Indy to Indy, how you qualified at each race, that kept track of where you are, and only the top 8 made it. So championship car like J.R. Todd didn't even make it in this thing. That's how tough it was. Oh, wow. So basically they went to number 1, who was Robert Hite, and they said, you get first pick to call out any of the other 7. And then we were second in the points in the all-star event. We went next, and then so on until number 4 and 5 were already, picked by themselves. That's all that was left. So Robert did have first choice. And then after first round was run, low ET of first round, at the top end, they put us on a stage on live TV, and we were to call out for the next round based on the quickest car of the first round, which we ended up being, which was very cool. And then, of course, we called Tim Wilkerson out to try and get retribution for him whooping our ass the year before at the U.S. Nationals on Monday. We got wilked, basically. And I love Wilkerson. He's a great guy, big fan of his, but that was something we wanted to get back at. And then, of course, we went low ET first round, and I thought nobody better to call out than the GOAT, John Forrest. And apparently the crowd loved it as well. So that kind of set everything up for us.
Hey, Dad, what are you going to buy at the store today?
I'm out of Lucas Oil fuel treatment, so let's jump in here and grab us some.
Well, do they have the Lucas Oil parts cleaner and degreaser?
I bet they do.
Well, how about the Lucas Oil power steering fluid?
They'll have that too.
Even the octane booster?
I won't be surprised if they do.
My favorite red and tacky grease?
Yes, they will, babe.
Dad, when we're done, can we grab some candy?
Deal, but you gotta share.
Awesome! Lucas works.
You were mentioning earlier, Ron, how top fuelers were kind of boring. What would you do to change things to make, because you guys made the call out fun. What did they need to do to change things up a bit?
I don't know. Years ago, we've had people come into our sport trying to want our sport to create a little bit more drama. And the problem is the word create. I don't like the WWF take on trying to create a rivalry. I think there's enough going on in our sport that you don't have to try to create something that's as intense as NHRA drag racing. So, I don't know if the dragster guys and girls his first time doing it, and I'm not sure that they just didn't. They weren't into it as much, or I don't think it created as much buzz. Naturally, Robert calling Tasca came in as one of the hottest cars through the summer, right? I think that in itself was kind of a throwdown without being said. It's a throwdown. So I think it did it on its own without even creating this drama. Like, all Robert had to do was say, I call out Bob Tasca, and that's really all he did. So that in itself just was like, wow. I mean, Tasca, he should have seen the color of his skin. It just changed. He did not expect it, nor did anybody else backstage. And all the drivers, we all looked at each other like, holy cow. And so I think next year you're going to see dragsters change it up a little bit and maybe just start talking a little bit of crap and, kind of stirring it up maybe.
You think they were afraid to get their feelings hurt, Ron? You guys drive cars at 330 miles an hour. Oh, I don't want to upset Johnny Boy.
Or I want to call somebody out that I know I can beat.
Yeah, excuse
so
me.
It's easy for you guys behind the microphone, right? Okay, so, but here's the way I look at it and I approach it. I'm a firm believer in karma. And any race car driver will tell you, the minute that you talk crap about somebody in any type of motorsports, any type, or football or baseball, whatever it might be, it's locker room material, right? So if you want to call somebody out and you're not prepared, all you're doing is you're either going to do the right thing and win, or you're going to completely set yourself up for going down. And I just, it's a fine line to walk. It's fun to talk a little crap and maybe, I don't know. It's so tough as a race car driver because you don't want to call anybody out and create any bad karma on your own or any bad juju, I guess.
Well, it's tough on athletes in general. We're talking to Ron Capps, Indy double up winner from the Big Go, finally getting himself a Wally from Indianapolis, the U.S. Nationals. It's athletes in general, and why have we gone this way as a society that we have to have certain drama? Like you said earlier, it's creating it. Why do we need to create it? Motorsports is the original extreme sport. NASCAR put a playoff and then NHRA followed to create more drama in their series. And there's lucky dogs in NASCAR. Why do we always feel like we have to play catch up when the sport itself should sell itself?
Yeah, and that's a perfect case is the funny car. It just sold itself. Like I said, Robert starting off that way and calling out one of the hottest cars in the division at the moment or at that time. But look, you go back to Bill Lambier, right? Detroit Pistons. I mean, he talked crap and that created so much excitement that you wanted to watch that game. You get some NASCAR guys that really talk a lot of crap and all of a sudden you're going to tune in to maybe see them not do so well. I mean, it is society and it's the way things are. I always cheered for the underdog, the David and Goliath matchups when I was a kid, the Ormsby or Bernstein or Snake or whoever. And when they pulled up at Pomona and I was a kid and there was Diamond Dave and the little dragster racing them with no budget, you wanted to see that little car beat that big sponsored car. But now I'm on the other side of it. Now I'm Goliath with the big sponsors and the big budget teams. So it goes both ways. Same thing with winning. Everybody loves a winner, right? I love a winner. Fans love a winner. But you start winning and all of a sudden, okay, that's enough. You're winning a little bit too much. So, it's always happened throughout whatever it is, motorsports, stick and ball, whatever it might be. So, it's just part of, like you said, society, I think.
Ron Capps, my F1 buddy. We haven't talked in a while about F1. You won the U.S. Nationals. You won the call out that we've been talking about. You got your own team. You're winning championships now after they get rid of the race of champions. And now I'm going to ask you something about F1. Out of all of that, we haven't talked about Abu Dhabi. I'm sure you heard about it. What do you think? I can't get it out of my head, especially after last weekend when they followed the rules and Red Bull won. They cheated in Abu Dhabi and Red Bull won.
Gee, I wonder where you fit in on this, Bill.
I'm very obvious where I stand. Where do you stand, Ron Capps?
Oh, I stopped getting that emotional about Formula One several years ago. It's so political. It's fun to watch, but it's again, like last weekend, it was it was so predictable when things start going like that. It was fun watching the season, how things have changed so much from Mercedes a couple years ago and all that. But yeah, all these weird rules and things. It just sometimes I used to get so upset like you. I would yell at the TV, and I'd be downstairs at 4:30 in the morning watching it live, and my wife would come down like, "What are you yelling at?" And so I for my blood pressure sake, I just stopped worrying so much about all that and just kind of let it go. So there you
And
have it.
all of that's legitimate. I became a fan a couple of years ago and treated it like a fan. I was always a fan and aware, but I started treating it like a fan. And stuff went crazy, and I'm trying to withdraw from it now. So, but it's hard, you keep wanting that fix, you want to figure out what's going on.
To me, it's like boxing, professional boxing. You watch sometimes, you go, I'm going to give boxing a chance. I'm a big UFC fan. You guys are as well. And you're like, okay, there's a big boxing match coming up. I'm going to give it a chance. And then it's complete. You watch it and you go, how is that happen? Why is the corruption still there? Obviously one guy won, and there's this big if, or, money flying around, and you go, okay, I gave it a chance, and boxing's back to where it was. So same thing with boxing. I don't get too excited about that. Formula One, I watch it. Sometimes you'll see somebody else get up there and win. But yeah, it's too predictable. And it's too political.
Maybe I should have been calling you more. We used to talk all the time.
I know.
And maybe I kept you excited, and I stopped calling you, and you said, screw that, So let's get back to drag racing. Ron Capps, you got your own team. You're winning with your own team. I bet you're popping your collar a little bit now that you are finding some success, and you're the man at the top of the food chain.
It's still hard for me to believe. I mean, things happened so fast at the end of last year. And I've said it before, you could not have scripted it, even in a Hollywood movie, better than me throwing, all I did was I knew that I wanted to try something different in September of last year. And I told Don Schumacher, I was a free agent. I wasn't coming back. And I said, I need to try to be a team owner. I had a weird moment, as did a lot of people during the pandemic. That was one of those gotcha moments where I said, you know what, it was life changing. And I decided I'm going to make that jump to try to be a team owner. And all this was going on. All this white noise was going on through our playoffs last year. And to have at the last minute Napa come on board and say, we want to stick with you, because they were going to leave drag racing. And if all that happened, and then comes Pomona and we win the world championship. And you could not have scripted that whole scenario. But that off season of December and January were the most craziness I've ever been through in my life. And here I am. So when you ask me, it's reminded me that I'm a team owner. I actually forget a lot of times, other than all the paperwork and stuff that we do in between races, that I never had to worry about, right? I always worried about my helmet and what color shield, if it was going to be the sun out and a tinted shield, or cloudy and a clear shield on my helmet. That's all I had to worry about back then. So things have changed a lot since I've talked to you guys, but it's crazy to have somebody talk to me and remind me that I'm a team owner now in the NHRA. And not just that, but just a great team and a great success that we've had already this season.
The weekend you've been waiting for is back. Are you ready to feel the ground shake? Are you ready for the sound of thunder? Are you ready for an adrenaline-pumping 3-second thrill ride? The NHRA Camping World Drag Racing Series returns to Worldwide Technology Raceway, September 30th through October 2nd. See legendary superstars John Forrest, Ron Capps, Tim Wilkerson, Rob Hyde, and Anton Brown battle it out in the countdown for the championship. The NHRA Midwest Nationals. Brought to you in part by the Illinois Office of Tourism and Illinois South Tourism. Go to www.raceway.com to get your tickets now.
You said something there that just leaped out at me, that Napa was thinking of leaving drag racing. Drag racing is wonderful. It's getting more TV with Fox, live shows that everybody complained that didn't exist before exist now. But why are champions having trouble finding sponsorship? Why are people leaving? Why are young people not wanting to get involved? I have a theory, and I've been wrong before, but my theories are my theories, and let me sleep at night. So I think that the NHRA promotes the technology and the 300 miles an hour in under 4 seconds more than they promote the great personalities like yourself, like John Force, like Antron, like Erica, great personalities and people. How do you think about that? Why are people finding it hard to get involved in drag racing?
Well, I think it's a great question. And I just sort of, my brother from another mother, Antron Brown, who we've been teammates a long time. I feel like I'm the one that got him motivated enough to get into a top fuel car. I used to tell him all the time he needed to be in a funny car, a dragster, and look and see where he is and how he does now and how he carries himself and the sponsors and all that. We always had the dream together, him and I, to be team owners at some point. Well, he got the head start on me, and he started about 1.5 years ago. And so he's been a tremendous help for me. But watching him do that and attempt it, and then COVID happened and all that. But there's a whole new regime that came in. I want to say more on the marketing and sponsorship side of Napa headquarters. Like a lot of sponsors, I'd been with them 17 years.
Wow.
So it's not like you see writing on the wall, but I was very close to everybody at Napa, and they were gonna stay with me a little bit on whatever I did. But I had a couple sponsors that I was talking to that were discussing if I went out on my own that they would want to be a part of what I was doing. But I think in our sport, you have to have that sort of not the hand-me-downs that you sort of get when you're a kid and you get them passed down from an older person, whether it's clothes or whatever. But we needed that sort of hand-me-down, like anybody else in any motorsport, to help somebody like myself transition into ownership. And watching Antron do it, of course, him and I being with Don Schumacher all those years and the success that we had, it was a great thing to attempt. And then I wasn't sure if those sponsors I had were going to be able to make it primary wise to fund a whole car. And then the new regime at Napa Auto Parts, it's actually 4 women that came on board from Coca-Cola who have been unbelievable at that time and since then with the brand and all that. They wanted to be a part of Ron Capps Motorsports in the capacity that they had been, where I was the Napa guy. So that's kind of how it happened. And it happened with 2 races to go in our season, basically. And when I got that phone call, I almost broke down. I was with my wife, and that was an emotional moment. And then I had Toyota jump on board right before our announcement, and I didn't have a manufacturer that was going to go with me. And when they called and gave me the news that they wanted to be a part of it, I did break down, because that was a life-changing moment for me as well. So I think it's just I've always been told by you and media and different people in the sport that, hey, you're going to be a team owner, a great team owner someday. But when you hear that, you're like, yeah. I'm going to wait until the time's right. I don't want to jump out and then not be ready to go after whoever I want to go after. But to answer your question, I can't tell you. And Antron told me this. He told me this last year. He said, brother, when you decide you're going to go out and the word gets out that you're going to go as a team owner, you're not going to believe the amount of people that are going to call you to be a part of what you're doing. And he's talking about sponsors, the small stickers on the car, medium-sized stickers. People just want to be a part of what you're doing. And there's a lot of people that were at DSR on my car before I didn't really know very well or do much, but they were part of DSRs. Well, Antron was right. I could not believe the amount of people that came on board and called Guido and called myself and said, we want to be a part of what you guys are doing.
For whatever you do, General Tire delivers.
Let me jump in there, Ron. I'm sorry, but you're answering my question. People are buying you. They aren't buying drag racing. They aren't buying 300 miles an hour in 4 seconds. They're buying Ron Capps and what Ron Capps can bring to the table. And it sounds like they should be promoting that out of Pomona and not all of this emphasis on the numbers. They ought to be promoting the people. You agree with that?
Well, you got to remember, years ago, Wally Parks, right, our godfather of drag racing, like it or not, his deal was the cars are the stars of NHRA. The cars are the stars. And when I came into drag racing as a driver for Snake, I was adamantly reminded of that, before he passed away. And that was that's how NHRA operated. They went off of how Wally Parks was. And they're great. The cars are the stars, right? But obviously that had to change. I think to add on to that NHRA's had to pivot. Glenn Cromwell and those guys, younger group coming in and running it, they've had to pivot. And honestly, I think they've had to sort of jump on the back of media people, PR people that we have on teams. I think I've got the best two women as both our media person, PR, and the girl that does our social media in the business, because they're cutting edge and they're always thinking outside the box. And I think when I decided to do this, I knew that what I knew worked for me. I've been drag racing and talking to you guys for 28 years as a professional driver. Never once had to bring a sponsor. Don Prudhomme's for almost a decade. Don Schumacher's with great sponsors. But there's a reason for that. Most drivers have to bring something to get into a seat. Well, I just think that sustaining and keeping a sponsor, things change all the time, but it's the way that you represent those sponsor. And I somehow have figured something out with these great sponsors. And I think that's carried me through that. And I didn't want that to change. But I also am smart enough to know that when I'm not real good at something, I hire somebody that is better than I am. And I tried to do all my social media and have fun with it and do different things. But I knew right off the bat, the first two people we were going to hire is both our media person, Allison, who's unbelievable, and then Cassandra Powick, who does our social media. So that, I think, NHRA, they're going to get mad at me. I always think that they have been slightly behind in a lot of those things, like social media, like PR, like media. And I think they've always looked at it wrong. They've always looked at it like they were doing us a favor when we would have a media event or a press event, or I would go to some city and get on a news channel before racing in that certain town or that area. And honestly, I think they've learned that you got to jump on board with the hardworking people that are on these teams, that are out in the trenches, including myself, who did it for years before, when I was the rookie and the kid coming up, and the Bernsteins and the Amatos and the Snakes and all those legends. They didn't want to get up in the morning, go into a studio and do a morning show. That's what we did. It was part of what you do, right? So to answer your question, I think that NHRA has learned to work with a lot of the teams better, learn from them, and also they finally let all of our PR people, our social people do things at the track, put social media posts out during a race, because we were forbidden to do it for the longest time until Monday morning. Well, what use is that for a fan, right? Our fans get onto Twitter. Why? I get onto Twitter on a Sunday because I want to see the minutes a touchdown is scored. I'm not going to Instagram or Facebook. I'm following sports. If I am going to follow something, it's up to the minute on Twitter. Well, fans that want to know, they need to know. And so I think that it's been a good thing that NHRA has slowly kind of figured that part out.
To be perfectly honest, though, that's motorsports in general. I think NASCAR is arguably ahead of the game there, but even NASCAR has a ton where they can improve social media wise and just media wise in general. Because again, you're right. I think the mentality of racing series, from NASCAR to IndyCar to drag racing, sometimes sports cars, Supercross is another one that sometimes does this. It's like, we're doing you a favor. We're giving you media. No. Your personalities are doing the series a favor by getting out there. You just have to let them get out there. So yeah, it's everybody can learn from this. It's not just NHRA's issue right now. It's all of the motorsports series.
Yeah, a great example is Roger Penske, right? Taking over that series and seeing and hearing, and I've heard several stories from people inside the business and how, I'll tell you an example. When pandemic happened, he would get on and watch these iRacing events that I would do that would have these kids racing with us. The Monday night racing thing that I do, it's got Kyle Busch and Parker and a whole bunch of people that jump in, but we got these kids that are, now there's several of them that are racing Xfinity stuff. But hearing that Roger Penske would get on and watch some of these events, and not only that, hearing what he would do with the press room and things at the Indy 500 that maybe wasn't happening before, little things like that it's always good to hear when somebody of that caliber gets it. And whether or not somebody made him get it or turned him on to why, it doesn't matter. When you got somebody like that figures it out and says, aha, I need to make sure that this continues on. That's a big deal, I think.
Yeah, people like that need to have reminders because change is happening so fast and you've got to evolve with any of the outside changes.
Ron Capps, NHRA champion, team owner, got his first win as a team owner and driver. Joining us here in the Freak Nation. Ron, we've been doing this a long damn time, baby.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah. If you're watching us on YouTube and Facebook, I think is that the first time you came in the studio?
I think so. And boy, that was a hell of a night. We ended up, Michael Anthony and my cousin Donnie and a whole group of people. We ended up going out after that and getting sloshed. We had a blast. I used to have so much fun. I first met Michael Anthony, obviously in Van Halen. We had a lot of fun. He would come to Pomona and we would go out and our families and friends. And that, I think, was the first time we drove down to that studio you guys had. Yes. Burbank, or where were you? You were down LA somewhere there.
It was KLSX at the time, and it was Statman. What was
off of Wilshire?
It's off.
Wilshire. Yeah. Wilshire. Yeah.
Yep. Look at that.
One night we had somebody bought a Nissan Skyline, and at midnight we were out in the middle of Wilshire, burning down the tires. So the sound was screaming off the high rises, and the guy was having so much fun. No cops anyway. They couldn't have caught him if they went after him. But they were just burning down. It was wild.
Sure,
we had some good times. The racquetball playing event we did, and
in fact,
in Denver.
That when you mentioned going out at the beginning and doing stuff, that was, I think, before we were even on the air, and you came and played racquetball with Kenny, and that's the exact thing that helped us, helped you, put you out there, and we got some people in drag racing to thank for Speed Freaks being on the air for now 22 years.
Oh shoot, I was before that, man. It was back when he was a sportscaster, and Pomona, we would go do things at Supercross. I would see you guys at. We would do things. The USAC midget, PRI, and SEMA. I mean, there were a lot of stuff that we did way back in the day before you guys are rock star like you are right now. I mean, I could go back even further, probably, of a lot of stuff we did with the Freak Nation.
So, Ron, how do you top what you did at Indianapolis? I guess it's just a championship as a driver and team owner, right?
Yeah. These things keep coming at me, and I never imagined we would have the weekend we have. I got sort of tired of hearing, are you going to, that's a one race you haven't won. And it's kind of like 2016. I was getting so tired of being compared to all these other professional athletes that had never won the big one. And then we finally won the first championship. So, yeah, it's amazing how all of a sudden the floodgates open up on something like that, and to win not only Indy to double up and do it when they up the money to the biggest paycheck, in drag racing as far as races. So it was good timing, believe me, because we could definitely use the budget. We're getting ready to buy equipment for next year and take that next step. But man, to obviously to win a championship, we gave Toyota its first win with a Supra body in Bristol, and now that's 3 wins for Ron Capps Motorsports, and it's just I'm riding the wave as the best I can.
So badass.
Yes,
well, buddy. We always appreciate you taking time out. We know you got tree problems outside. You got to go out there and some damn trees, man. We know what's more important, bud.
Hey, it's California, man. You got palm trees. We got to get those trimmed up. Or I look like I'm in a ghetto, man. I got the one house with brown palm tree leaves falling off of it.
Yeah, you can't do that, man. Especially if you got an HOA, man. It'll be popping your ass. Ron, thank you, buddy.
Always good to talk to you, and I'm so happy I got the Speed Freak mojo going into our playoffs. We've always talked about how, how it is, and so I appreciate you guys having me on.